Hi, I'm your host, Jeffrey Shaw, and welcome to the Self-Employed Life Coaching Break. Take a short break from your very busy day running your own business so that I can offer you some coaching on business strategies, personal development, and daily habits that you need to create sustainable success. If you want to find out more ways that I can support you, hop on over to jeffreyshaw.com and learn about my speaking and check out my small business consulting and branding services. The Self-Employed Life. This is business with a soul. I'm sure you've heard the idea that we are often more afraid of success than we are failure. Now, while fear is certainly a part of that, I think the bigger problem is the self-sabotage that often comes with the fear of success. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here today. Now, to set the stage, I want to tell you the story of the Everything Bagel. I have a talk that I give, which is called Life is an Everything Bagel. And it's one of my favorite talks to give. And in preparing for that talk, I did a ridiculous amount of research on the invention of the Everything Bagel. And the story goes that there was a young teenager that worked at a bagel shop in Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'm going to dramatize a little bit here for the sake of making a point, because, of course, I wasn't there the morning the Everything Bagel was invented. But apparently, something along the lines of this young teenager whose job it was to clean out the oven, because bagels are unique. Bagels are boiled and then they're baked. So in the baking process, often the different bagels, the garlic bagel, the sesame seed bagel, the onion bagel. So as these were all baking in the oven, sesame seeds, garlic, and onion would fall off the bagels and reside on this pan on the bottom of the oven. And apparently this young teenager one day, in cleaning out the oven, looked at all these ingredients at the bottom of this pan, the garlic, the sesame seed, the onion, and poppy seed. And he thought, well, what if we put everything, all of these ingredients on a bagel, and we could call it the Everything Bagel? And in fact, this young man is accredited with coming up with the name Everything Bagel. There's actually a little bit of a bagel war in New York City, and remarkably, it actually involves Seth Godin, because Seth Godin worked in a bagel shop at about the same period, and he said his bagel shop created the Everything Bagel. So leave it to New Yorkers to create a controversy around bagels. But this is the research I found, and I kind of like this idea. I kind of like this moment where somebody has this idea that what if we stop making people choose? And when people stop choosing, they choose everything. And the Everything Bagel became popular. Now, I will admit that many years ago, I didn't actually like the Everything Bagel. And as silly as it sounds, I was aware to some degree that the reason I didn't like the Everything Bagel is that it was everything. Like, it was kind of an explosion of flavor. But one could say that it can often be difficult to handle the explosion of abundance. And maybe at that point in my life, it was more than I could handle. I love an Everything Bagel now. Now I see it as a personal challenge to embrace and love the Everything Bagel. But this idea of abundance as an explosion is the very reason very often lottery winners historically blow all their money. Right? It's self-sabotage. They get too much money too quick, and it's a lot to handle. I personally have seen coaching clients kind of push away their opportunities, to push away even their money, because with abundance comes a fair amount of responsibility. And a lot of people simply aren't prepared to handle the responsibility that comes from having everything. So when we're not prepared to handle the responsibility that comes from having everything, what do? We push things away. Do you sometimes wonder if your website is showing you and what you do at your best? Whether it's speaking to your ideal customer, are people coming to your website but not converting to customers? Or are you not super proud of the way you and your business are portrayed on your website? According to my research, 98 out of 100 websites are not speaking the lingo of their ideal customers. As a listener of the Self-Employed Life podcast, I'm offering you a special opportunity for me to help you out. I'll do a quick review of your website, complimentary, and let you know how you can improve your website to be sure you're speaking the lingo of your ideal customers. All you need to do is go to lingoreview.com, fill out a quick application, and I'll email you with some tips to improve your website. Again, that's lingoreview.com. I look forward to making sure you are putting the best of yourself out in the world and getting the results you want. So, what I want you to think about in this episode is what might be the one thing you are pushing away. It may not be a lot of things, but what is the one thing that might be left undone? Have you ever made a list of all your good fortunes? Have you ever made a mental list, or even in speaking it outward to someone, making a list of everything that's right in your life, and then end it by saying, well, except for this one thing? Sadly, I will admit to a point in my life many, many years ago, prior to divorcing, when I can vividly recall saying to my assistant in my office, saying, the business was at the peak. So I've got a great business. I've got 3 healthy kids. I'm doing work that I love. And, being unhappy in my marriage, I said something like, so I'll go to my grave not really having a happy relationship. But that's okay because everything else is great. Have you ever caught yourself saying, this isn't great, but hey, everything else is? Why? Because we have come to accept something being undone so that we don't have to manage the responsibility that comes from having everything. My assistant, in her wisdom, woke me up to saying, no, it's not. It's not okay. It's not okay that you have everything, but you're willing to go to your grave not being really happy in a loving relationship. That actually was the impetus of me getting to the point of realizing that at that time, that relationship needed to end. Brings me to today. More recently, I found myself saying to myself, gosh, I've got everything I could possibly want. I live in paradise. I live exactly where I want to live in my life in Miami, Florida. I have a successful business. I'm doing the work that I absolutely love. My book is doing well. The one thing left undone, I had said, was I just don't feel like I have control over my health and fitness. Very irregular habits of fitness. And just, I knew I wasn't eating the caliber and quality of food that I like. And yes, I put on some weight. Who didn't in COVID? Well, actually, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people took that as opportunity and improved their health. For me, it was also while I was writing a book. And when I'm writing a book, I tend to munch. So I always say I'm going to put on 10 pounds with every book. Luckily, I have a couple years in between to take it off. But I honestly could look at my life again and say, I've got everything except for one thing's left undone. So I'm here to say to you and commit to you that I have since hired a personal trainer who is working with me remotely. We're setting up an exercise program, eating. I have a whole nutrition. I have food delivered, made locally here in Miami by a wonderful chef who is delivering nutritious meals. So I have full control over calorie count, the breakdown of carbs and fat and protein. And it feels like a sense of being on top of it. Yes, it's control, but it's a sense of being on top of it. This for me is the one thing currently left undone, and I'm not going to let it be left undone. My challenge to you is, what is the one thing in your life that might be left undone, and why? Why might you be leaving that one thing undone? It's probably because it's too hard to say, I have everything. If you find yourself making a list of all your blessings, of all the things that are right, and there's an except in there, the except is the one thing left undone. how about you close that loop? That to me is where this self-sabotage part comes in, that we often leave one thing left undone. Have you ever almost finished off a plate of food, but you've left, I don't know, one or two small pieces that you know that you could just finish it, but you choose to because there's certain psychology to saying, well, I didn't completely clean the plate, right? Why? Because you probably don't want to feel gluttonous. Like, hey, just by leaving one or two pieces makes me feel like I'm less of a, I didn't devour the plate. Okay. Subtleties, very subtle things in ways that we are leaving something undone. But I want to encourage you to look at the full picture of your life and ask yourself, what's the one thing that you might be leaving undone that's keeping you from having everything? And know that you can handle it. Know that you can handle having everything. Yes, with having everything comes a certain weight of responsibility, because when you have everything, you don't want anything to slip away. But it's okay to strive to have everything and find that you can handle it. So I want to encourage you, wholeheartedly encourage you, to look for the one thing that's left undone. Make that list, if you will, of all your blessings and all the things that you know are going right. And what's your accept? Everything's going right except, and what can you do to close that loop so that you can have a life of having everything? Give it a try, give it some thought, and share if you'd like with me, with people around you. I'd like to know what it is that one thing that you're left undone. Just as I just did, I admitted to the one thing being left undone for me is my health and fitness. It feels like something in my life that I'm not on top of, and I want to be on top of it. I want to feel like I am living in paradise. I have healthy children, and although they're adults, my kids are healthy. I have success with my book. I'm working with the people that I love. I want to make the whole list of everything that's going right and not have an accept. Not say, accept my health and fitness. In 3 short months, that box is going to be ticked off as well. So literally, I'll be able to say, I have everything, and I want you to have everything. So give it a try. Remember, you might be in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself. Be your best self, be proud, and keep changing the world.